Happy Sunday, everyone. It's Denise from Dobby Books. I hope your week went well in spite of all the exciting news we've had. And I just want to use this time to share with you what I've been thinking about as to what my reading goals are for the year. What do I want to pursue? What am I curious about? What are my maybes? So I'm gonna go through that with you. Hopefully, I'm not going to take too long. So let's just get started on this. So I wrote these down in my bullet journal, and usually the best ideas come to me when my head is clear first thing in the morning after, well, at least one cup of coffee. All right, so here were things I listed pretty much in order of priority. The first one is my Middle Ages reading. This is something, it's been a goal for many years to work my way through history chronologically. And I finally reached the Middle Ages. So I want to see if I can spend a year in the Middle Ages reading in an unhurried manner and giving myself time to read more deeply those texts that may require that, and being able to, in the meantime, enjoy lighter reads and to just have the time and the space to think about that a little bit. My dog's wandering. I'm sorry. Lily. There you go. All right. And I've come to realize that a lot of the Middle Ages reading, I'd say in the earlier part of Middle Ages, there's a lot of church sources, a lot of them from the clergy, writing, whether it's on religious topics. It's predominantly religious topics. I'm comfortable with that. I'm familiar with the traditional Catholic beliefs, so I'm comfortable with that. It just had me thinking. It's like, what do people do who are neither Catholic nor Protestant? Perhaps they're not as familiar with the Judeo-Christian lingo, traditions. I kind of wonder, is this a part of the Middle Ages that maybe they just skip? But if not, which text do they choose to read? I'm very curious about that. I don't know if any of you are in that boat, but if you are, and you wouldn't mind letting me know a few sources that you've turned to instead of the religious texts, I'm just curious. I'd like to know. So there's that. Okay. Second is Historathon. Now, second one, it's a tie with Roman emperors because both are just as valuable to me. I am enjoying reading through the Roman emperors, but I also have joined Historathon for the first time this year, right at the beginning, which is perfect. And I have on my table sitting across from me 9 books. They are my original pile of possibilities that I shared with you on a previous video. But today I made a jailbreak. I'm not supposed to drive yet, and I can't sit for very long because of, the surgery. But I knew I was just gonna go buggy if I didn't get out of the house, just for a little while to feel normal. So I made this a quick drive to Barnes and Noble. I normally take side roads. I just prefer to take the side roads over going on the freeways, highways for some of you, expressways, etc. So I took the freeway. I got there quickly, took my time walking around, even though there were 2 books I had in mind and that I knew were available at the store. I just wanted to walk around to give myself a little break from the sitting. And I grabbed my 2 books, and both of them fall into the category of Q1 Historathon reads. Let me show you those. The first one I mentioned when I was telling you guys about my reading of Nero. Seneca was mentioned many times in that book. So of course I was very curious. I looked on my shelves. I had no sources. There were none from Seneca or about Seneca. So I decided I needed to get one. So I got this today. It's entitled Seneca, Letters from a Stoic. So if I can, I'm going to read this for Q1 Historathon. It's just early into the 1st century AD. It's perfect. And the other desire I had for the first quarter of Historathon was to read up on some sort of ancient history in relation to Mexican history, because that is part of my heritage. And I thought this would be convenient to do that. And I found this book, Mexico, From the Olmecs to the Aztecs, 8th edition. As soon as I saw that, I thought, 8th edition, this looks like a textbook. I don't think I'm wrong. Look at the inside of it. Like, for those of you, familiar with the college textbooks, this is definitely formatted in such a way that it just looks like you see the references highlighted in red. It looks like a college text. This is something I could definitely see being used over a semester or two on Mexican history. The publisher of this is Thames and Hudson. The authors are Michael D. Coe, Javier Urcid, and Rex Kuntz. And I was hoping I would find something that would spend enough time on ancient Mexican history and that history that transpired before the Spanish arrived. Because I've heard a lot of history of the Aztecs and then the Spaniards arriving and then the colonization and all the changes that happened on both sides. I'm familiar enough with that, but I needed something that went before that. And I think this fits the bill, because the first, after the introduction, the chapters have titles like Early Hunters, the Archaic Period, the Formative Period, Early Villagers, etc. And it goes on and on. Early Civilizations, the Classic Period, the Epiclassic Period. It's very specific. The Post-Classic Period, the Toltec State, that's familiar. Then it goes into the Aztecs. And the final chapter, the epilogue, covers the Spanish conquest. Perfect. So, although it's a little more dense than I had assumed it would be, I think it's an excellent resource. So these two books are going to be added to my Historathon pile, which makes it now 11 books in my pile of possibilities for quarter one. But that's okay. And then there's the Roman emperors. Right now, I just finished Nero, Matricide, Music, and Murder in the Roman Empire. I just finished that fabulous read. Now I started 69 AD, the year of 4 emperors. I want to keep doing that. I really am enjoying reading through the Roman emperors. So Historathon and Roman emperors both tie for second place. So those are my next priorities that I really don't want to sacrifice and I need to make time for. And then my next category is the US presidents. Now, I really would like to read through the biographies of all the US presidents. But when I look back at 2025, I've only read one. I've only read George Washington's. And I've already gotten 3 books for the next 3 presidents. And there they sit, staring at me from across my chair. The next one that I have to read is by Dave McCullough, John Adams. And it's kind of on the semi-humongous side, but not quite. So obviously this is going to take a little while. So I wondered, should I put this down as the one president biography I'm going to read this year, or can I possibly read at least 2 for 2026? I'm willing to challenge myself to read 2. But if I only read 1, it's fine. But I'm going to tell myself, okay, 2 presidents this year. I think I can do that. All right. And then the next one, a book series. Last year, it was Philip Pullman. I wanted to read through his original trilogy, which was the Historic Materials trilogy. And then I wanted to read through the next trilogy, which was the Book of Dust trilogy, because the last book in that second trilogy was published. last year, 25. And I did. And I read some other books by him. So I accomplished that goal, and I did it in much shorter time than I imagined. And it's because of the publication date of that last book in the trilogy. This is what spurred me on. Prior to that, I was reading the Redwall series by Brian Jacques. There's 20-some books in that series. It's a book for young readers, middle schoolers. I think I've read 3. So I want to keep going in that. How many can I read? I have to pick a number. So I am picking 2 more books so that by the end of this year, I will have finished 5 in the series. I think that's a conservative and safe enough goal. And once I finish the second one, the second of the 2 that I'll be reading this year, let's see how much year is left over. Maybe I can throw in a third in that series, but we'll see. I really want to get back to that series. The next one, miscellaneous reads. Now, miscellaneous reads. My current miscellaneous read, let me turn on my Kobo here. I just put a book on hold at the library, which I'll be picking up in a day or 2, or sending my husband to do. And I have one book that I borrowed from my library in an ebook format, which looks like just such a wonderful book. And I think I got another book. There's so many good books that I've heard, that I've been watching other YouTubers talk about. Most recently in My Reading Life, each book that she reviewed for 2025, I want to read every single one. They were fabulous. Oh my gosh, what wonderful reviews she gave. Can I possibly include all? But there are 5 books. I think there were 5, if I'm not mistaken. 5 more books added to all the books I also want to read here at my library. So the one that I just borrowed is entitled, let's go back, The Bookshop, A History of the American Bookstore by Eben Friss. I want to get the front cover for you. It's not in color, but this is the book that I most recently borrowed from my library. And it just sounded so wonderful. He went and his intro is, he described a bookshop in New York, I think it was. Its history, the people who go in there on a regular basis. He really captured the personality of this bookshop. So you could really see, it made you want to go to that bookshop. It's on my bucket list the next time I go to New York. I've got to see this bookshop. And he goes into, okay, so he opens with that modern day example, but what he does in the book is he starts from the beginning. So he goes with Benjamin Franklin, and he's moving his way forward from there. And the wonderful history of bookshops and what they've meant to us as Americans and as readers. I could not resist. So that's the next book that I've also decided to read. And I need to go back to my books. Okay, so there's that. That's my extra read, plus the one that I just put on hold at the library. I believe that the title is The Shadow, and then there's the subtitle under that. I'm not going to remember that, but what the book talks about is our technology-saturated world and what it's doing to us as people, how it's compromising our ability to think deeply, to remember who we are, to be able to pay attention long enough to be aware of what's happening to us. And this author talks about how this isn't necessarily being stolen to us, we're handing it over. He talks about other topics. In this book, I'm going to post an image of that book for you here so you can see it and check it out for yourselves. And I'm also going to post in the description box an article I read this morning on Substack. And I'm not going to remember who posted it. His name is Matt, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's Matt. he talked about this book as well, plus other ones all on the same topic. And just the article itself that this person wrote was comprehensive. He starts at the beginning, he rounds everything out, he comes back at the end. What a well-written essay this was. Wow. So I'm going to post the link for you. It was outstanding. Okay, back to my 26 goals, my 2026 goals. In addition to those reading goals / desires, I have topics I want to study this year. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the fourth one is a little more involved. The first one, of course, is the Middle Ages. There is study involved in that. It's not just the reading that I'll be doing from primary sources or perhaps narrative histories, but there will be some books. There is the one book, The Civilization of the Middle Ages by Norman F. Cantor. That's my spine. That's the book that's given me the framework on the entire Middle Ages. I don't just read that one. I summarize every paragraph, and then at the end of the chapter, I write down a rough outline of that chapter. And at the end, I want to be able to summarize the book itself in my own words, pulling those main ideas so that so I remember it better. So that takes work. It takes reading carefully and writing and organizing. So there's that continuing study, the Middle Ages, that falls into the study category. Secondly, there's a writing course that I've been doing off and on over the last year and a half, maybe, that I put aside, over the summer. I just took a break after graduation and didn't do much of anything on it. It's geared towards high schoolers, I believe, but adults can use it too, and it's simplified. I like that. I just like the way it's formatted. I like the topics that it touches on and how it builds cumulatively on each one of those skills as you move along. It comes in 3 thick texts like this. Not that it has that much work to do, but it has explanation, examples, and now you get the assignment and you go on and do this. I am always on the lookout for other writing programs. I'm always interested in other writing programs. It's just something that I want to improve on, because this was the biggest struggle for me throughout college, were my writing skills. And I have to say that in my last year, I noticed my skills had improved. My ability to organize my thoughts, to put them on paper, to expand on those thoughts, and go into the detail of, citing something, saying it in my own words, or what's the word? Interpreting that, and then offering more information on it. Those little details got easier for me. But I know I can do better, and I want to continue to do better. So that writing course is what I have for now, and that's the one that I want to continue forward with. And then the next one that I want to study is poetry. Because poetry is not something I really studied a lot of, if at all, when I was in school, I want to know more. So I managed to find some sources that are helping me with that. So I want to dedicate some time to that during the week and just keep working through it. It means a lot for me to do that. And the last one is modern languages, but I listed 2 modern and 1 ancient. So the 2 modern ones are French and Italian. Italian is easier for me. French is gotten easier, but I still think Italian to me comes more naturally. My sister thinks French is easy. Now, my sister and I are both bilingual. We grew up speaking English and Spanish, me, my sister, and my younger brother. We learned both languages growing up. But for my sister, French is easier for her than Italian because she hears more Spanish in the French words. I am the opposite. For me, Italian is easier to learn because I hear more of the Spanish in the Italian words and less in the French. It's weird how we're both seeing it like that, but I guess that's just brains, They work differently. I want to continue with my Italian, and I want to continue with my French. I don't want to lose whatever I've managed to learn up to this point. I use my Pimsleur courses, which I got through audible.com, and it's learning conversational. It's I think it's a very easy way of learning a language to begin. Forget learning the tenses and conjugating your verbs. Don't do that yet. Learn some of the language conversation first. I want to keep doing that. The other one that I want to review and refresh my memory on is Latin. Now, when I was homeschooling my kids, at some point I was applying classical teaching to their homeschooling. And part of that included learning Latin. And I found sources which were available to homeschoolers where the parent could learn along with the child. So I was able to learn some Latin as I taught it to my children. And then when I went to a community college, I took 2 semesters of Latin in addition. If you don't use it, you lose it. So I want to at least review my Latin during the year. So think about this. I'm going to be doing all this reading, my Middle Ages, my Historathon, my Roman emperors, my US presidents, reading my Redwall series, plus any miscellaneous reads that catch my eye. And I want to spend some time studying. Besides the Middle Ages, a writing course, my poetry, and modern languages. That's a lot I put on my plate. I realize that. And I don't know, maybe I'm a glutton for punishment. And there's a book that I recently added. It's by Sister Miriam. I forgot her last name now. I'll post it up here. It's called The Trivium. It's pretty dense reading. It's something that's going to require me sitting down and, just like my Middle Ages primary text, reading it, outlining it, really understanding it. So it's going to take time. And I asked myself the other day, why did you add this book? And I thought, well, originally because, it's during the Middle Ages and they rediscovered classical learning. So it matches with my Middle Age studies, I'm trying to convince myself that I needed to read this. And I think in the end, I'm just a glutton for punishment. I just, I want to do everything. I want to study everything and read everything yesterday. It's just part of that as well. But that's what I have, everybody. How much of that made sense, I have no idea. But those are my goals for 2026. And moving forward, you're all going to find out along with me how much I've been able to actually do. And those things that I may have started, I may start, but then stop. And I'll let you know why that happens. And by the end of the year, I'll know how much I did altogether. So those are my thoughts and reflections for 2026. And I thank you for letting me talk your ear off during this time. Everybody, please be safe. Stay strong. Stay connected. I love you all, and I will see you in just a few days. Bye-bye.